Here we are checking on reconstruction. So you see that this volume service still doesn't have a backup. That's because the president will not enable backup while reconstruction is running. Reconstruction on data has about an hour left. Reconstruction on home has about 15 hours left. And reconstruction on projects has about an hour left. That's pretty good. That's very good. So as we said, I was kind of trying to do things more than once. I was not going through things in an orderly fashion. We did not finish with what we needed to do with the director. So let's go hardware diagnostics. Look, we have all these warnings. We have a warning for every, we've got a warning for the volume service, one that volume service moved, the other that it doesn't have a backup, and we've got warnings that reconstruction began. We've got warnings that the OSD is out of service. You see, we can clear these, but I don't think we want to. We cannot clear any of the reconstruction related stuff, and we have a information item that reconstruction of route is complete. So let's go to realm management. We have a 2-member direct rep set. We've replaced our director. It still has the same IP address, again, because we didn't really replace it. But let's say we replaced the SSD, and it's still good. So what do we need to do here?
Is everybody to add
that's right.
Back to the rep set?
Yes. So what are we going to do?
So we're going to click add and select the 1.2. Click add and pray.
Yep. It's thinking. It used to kind of have a little wheel. It doesn't do that anymore. There we go. So now the director's good. Let's look at the service ownership. Okay. And it still hasn't figured out that there's no backup. Again, the vol service listing and the GUI leaves a little bit to desire. There clearly is no backup. Okay. I do not want to let reconstruction run until we're finished. We are going to gracefully end reconstruct. Oh, I need to power that thing back up. So here's the one where I powered it down. Go and power it on. Tell you what, let's do this instead. Just for fun. By the way, that's that article about resizing the loop size. You certainly won't need it. HTTPS. Username in caps, add in, and our password, not the same as the realm password. And here we are. Can you see that? It says host is currently off. Console predictably blank. Power on. Again, this little console here is not much. Well, it's really not much. We'll come over here and get a real console if you just want to see something boot. Still kind of booting, so yeah, it's in the CPU. So it's blank. While it's sitting there in the CPU, a lot of times you don't see it, and it's in the CPU because it's dealing with the NVDown. That's where the ultra modes do. I should have done this earlier so we didn't have to wait on it. While we're waiting on this, let's look at still got red there. Let's look at our storage statistics. Reconstruction puts some pretty good load on the OSDs and on the director, because there's all that reads and the writes of the components to reconstruct them. And if there's job log on top of that, sometimes it's pretty high. You can see a lot of reads and some writes, because for every component that's missing that we're going to write, we're going to read about 10 of them. So that's good. You can see that the disk activity is pretty high. That's not alarming. I mean, it's pounding those things, reading the data. You probably can't remember, but the reserve space is going down. Oh, and here under system tasks, there is an overall percentage increase done for reconstruction. I'm not quite sure what that's based on. I didn't realize that was there. That's interesting. Let's see if this ever has come up. I tell you what, we're going to go ahead and start on the next topic, and then we're going to come. Oh, there it is. It's up. Well, we can see it on this console. That's the that is the system D output that you see. Oh, why this one's unresponsive. It may be because this one's oh. And it may be that we need to close this window. Ah, there we go. I mean, it's actually up. So now, what we can do, let's say we discovered, oh, you know, this was a networking problem the whole time. There was something wrong with the port. That's why the node was unresponsive. We have fixed the networking. We have looked at stuff. We have determined this node is not at fault. It is safe to put it back into the system. We do not put nodes back into the system that have failed out without being pretty sure that they're good and healthy. We do not want to put bad nodes back in. But let's just say that we determined that that was the case. I'm going to go to hardware. I'm going to go to that node. And, oh, that's interesting. One of the network ports is down. There is a button down here that says revive node. Revive is not particularly dangerous. Revive gracefully ends reconstruction. It tells the president, please put this node back into online. It will say it's successfully revived it no matter what. And if the president will tell the OSD to start its services. If it does, it'll come online. If it doesn't, it will go right back into not responding and reconstruction will start again. So we're going to press revive node. Successfully revive the node. It says it's online. Let's see if it stays online. I don't know why. We've got this networking thing. So now let's see what happens to the volumes. Look, they're all online. Reconstruction gracefully ended. This is what's called background cleanup in process. This node was partly reconstructed, so some of its components are now on other OSDs, and we now have duplicates. So what the storage manager is doing is walking through all the objects, understanding that there are some duplicate objects probably on that OSD, and it will delete them to make sure that there's no danger here. It's just stuff needs to be cleaned up. This can introduce a little bit of slowness, but not a whole lot. So now the nodes are back online. Okay. Now let's look at the volume services. Looky there. President says, it's not reconstructing anything. It is perfectly safe for me to enable that backup, so it did. Okay. Now let's look at the backup situation and see if these are balanced. We didn't want to be moving things during reconstruction. I was trying to illustrate really too many things at once, but ASD11 has one major backup service and two user backups. You know, I think it's a little overloaded because it has one major primary, two major backups. 1.2 has one major primary and just the backup for a little root. That's not much. I think it needs maybe one of ASD11's backups should go to 1.2. 1.3 has one major full user volume service as the primary, one backup. So let's go to, and usually customers don't do this. I like to kind of fine tune things. You know, they're all good, but I would like for 1.3, see, 1.2. I would like for 1.2 to have one of 1.1's backups. It can't be this one because it's already the primary. So we're going to move the backup for this service to 1.2. And I know I didn't explain that very good, but you'll see the goodness of this when we do it. So we want 17 to move the backup to 1.2. So this is similar. We're going to choose 17. We want it to go to 1.2. Now we're not going to move the service. We only want to move the backup. So we're going to move backup right here. And you can kind of see a little wheel spinning up there. Let's look, see what PanFS thinks. And looky here. Now we've got 1.1 with one primary, and one major. Oh, it hasn't moved yet. Ah, now it has. Oops. It took the whole thing down offline just for a second to enable the backup. More than a second. Still more than a second. There. Okay. So the volumes were down for those 2 seconds or 2. So when I ask a customer to rebalance the volume service, I will tell them this could take your volumes offline for a couple of seconds. You may want to wait for a convenient time to do this. Not when you're batch jobs, this is not going to bother them at all. Interactive users would be very annoyed with this. So probably after business hours when they've gone home. Batch jobs run for, 24 hours a day. But your interactive users probably don't. Unless they're kind of crazy like me. So now let's check the balance. ASU 11, one major for its primary, and it is the backup for one major. So it's got one full volume service primary, one full all the backup. That's good. 1, 2 is the primary for a full one, and that's all. It's the backup for one full one plus the little bitty one for root. That's fine. 1, 3, it's got a full volume service here, plus the little one for root. And here's the backup for one full volume service. This is balanced in my opinion. What do y'all think?
That's good.
Yeah. Doesn't matter who had what before. Now, sometimes if you have a very, very busy console director and a very, very busy metadata. For instance, this console director is now running the volume service for home. Actually, let's say it scratches the busiest one. You might want to take that into consideration, but that's kind of rare. Okay, so now let's go look at the blade set. That snapshot's blade set. And set 1. And look at the status. Now it's back to 12 of 12 OSDs. Look at spare was restored because it is no longer reconstructing that node. So it got it back. Let's look at the storage statistics. We're going to see some uneven statistics because look, 1, 2 has less. And to tell you the truth, it doesn't even realize how much less it has until background cleanup gets further in. But we really would have had to have let reconstruction complete and reinitialize this. And had we been in the full 12-day course, we would have let reconstruction run overnight and then done it. But look, we've got all kind of writes to 1, 2 and reads from everything. I wonder what's going on here. We have, let's look at blade set capacity imbalance detected. So we have, oh look, we have two of this information items. Like I said, I haven't seen an example of that in a long time. Let me take a picture of that real quick. It already finished on data. It removed 442,000 stale components. That means that components on this node that had already been reconstructed, so they were not needed, so it deleted them. So all the maps in data are now efficient. There are no extras. So let me just grab this real quick. Now look, it's completed on both projects and data. So if reconstruction is stopped, if reconstruction is completed on a volume, the background cleanup is not needed because it just goes into the OSD and deletes the entire group. If reconstruction was never started, then there are no duplicate components. But if reconstruction partly started, then there are some duplicates, or if a client deleted something because that might be stale, then we have to do the volume cleanup to make sure that everything is all good. Right. So that's all very interesting. Let's clear out the ones that say online. Select all. Selected alerts. Okay, now we know that the capacity balancing is going on. That got cleanup. Look, it says reconstruction has completed on all these volumes. Well, we stopped it, but we stopped it gracefully. So that counts as reconstruction completed. So we see all those. Let's get rid of the completed. And now we have, oh, that cleared the other ones too. So let's just clear the cleanup. And we have a whole bunch of stuff, but let's talk about capacity balancing. We want the OSDs to have about the same amount of data. Why? Because first of all, this optimizes your capacity. If some are full and some are not, then you may not be able to use that capacity, but it also balances load. Because if some of the OSDs have more components, they're going to have more reads and writes. So we want to balance these things out. There is a process called the performance manager, which is also active during drain, which figures out if some have at least 4% more capacity used than the others. If it does, it's going to go find the ones that are more full. It's going to start listing components and find some stuff that it wants to move to the ones that are less full. It also adjusts the reserve space to make sure that that's evened out too. I mean, it doesn't. The president is the only one that can adjust reserve space, but the performance manager tells the president what needs to happen for the reserve space to be equal. So that's running. That's why there's all these writes to these nodes and reads to these other ones to balance all that kind of stuff. This may take several days, maybe a week to balance out. If we had let it go all the way to zero, it would take a while. This is throttled. We don't want it. We don't want this to interfere with job load. So this is a slow process, but it will even this out over time. Questions about anything that we've done right here?
Nope.
All right. And I will give you slides